It was one of those rare rainy days in Los Angeles when the city seemed to pause, its usual bustle subdued by the rhythmic drumming of raindrops that fell in steady sheets, transforming Los Angeles into a city of muted colors. Elon Musk, uncharacteristically free from his back-to-back meetings, sought solace in a small, unassuming coffee shop. The small coffee shop on a nondescript street corner was a haven from the weather, its warm lights casting a golden glow on Rain Street windows. Inside, patrons huddled over their drinks, conversations reduced to murmurs. Elon Musk entered quietly. Dressed in a black hoodie, jeans and sneakers, he blended into the modest crowd. To the casual observer, he was just another tired customer seeking refuge. The world's richest man was just another face today. But beneath the casual facade was a man whose mind never stopped racing, juggling visions of Mars colonies and artificial intelligence as he searched for his next source of inspiration. As Elon ordered his coffee, his attention was drawn to a man in the corner, a rough-looking figure hunched over a cup of water. The man's beard was overgrown, his jacket frayed, and his eyes hollow. Yet behind the weariness lay an unmistakable flicker of defiance. Elon was drawn to him, not out of pity, but curiosity. Elon hesitated before approaching, holding 2 steaming cups of coffee. "Mind if I sit here?" The man glanced up, his brows furrowing. "Free country," he muttered, his voice carrying both indifference and suspicion. Elon slid into the chair opposite, setting 1 cup in front of Charlie. "Thought you might need a refill." "I don't need charity," the man snapped, but took the cup anyway, cupping it in his calloused hands. "Just a cup of coffee," Elon said, shrugging. "No strings attached." Charlie grunted but took a sip. "What's your name?" "Charlie," he said begrudgingly. "What's your story?" Elon asked, leaning back. Charlie's eyes darkened. "Why do you care?" "Curiosity," Elon said simply. The rain outside created a rhythmic backdrop as Charlie, reluctantly at first, began to talk. He spoke of his days as a long-haul truck driver, his life with Linda, and the devastating car accident that tore his world apart. As he recounted his descent into alcohol and drugs, his voice grew softer, tinged with shame and regret. "Now I'm just another ghost on the street," Charlie said, his voice cracking. "What's the point of trying when you've already lost everything?" Elon listened intently, his expression thoughtful. "What if I told you that you could start over?" Charlie gave a bitter laugh. "Start over? With what? A magic wand?" "No magic," Elon replied. "Just the belief that people can change if they have the right help." The two sat in silence for a while before Charlie asked, "What about you? Why are you here?" "I needed a break," Elon said vaguely. Charlie studied him more closely, noting the confidence in his posture and the faint glimmer of ambition in his eyes. There was something familiar about this man, but Charlie couldn't place him. It wasn't until much later, when a barista whispered excitedly about Elon Musk being in the shop, that Charlie's eyes widened in disbelief. "You're that Elon Musk?" Elon smiled faintly. "Last I checked." Fourth act on. The Broken Road Charlie had once been a proud long-haul truck driver. His life centered around the open road and the family waiting for him at home. His wife, Linda, was the love of his life and his greatest supporter. They had dreams of building a small trucking company together, saving every penny toward their shared goal. But tragedy struck one snowy evening. A car accident claimed Linda's life, and Charlie's world collapsed. He turned to alcohol to numb the pain, then to harder substances when the guilt became unbearable. Within a year, he lost his job, his home, and his connection to his only daughter, Emily. As the rain subsided, Elon offered Charlie a ride. They drove in silence, the hum of the electric motor filling the space between them. Charlie broke the silence. "Why are you helping me?" "Because I can," Elon replied. He dropped Charlie off at a shelter, promising to return. Over the next few weeks, Elon kept his word, visiting regularly to check on Charlie and bring supplies. Their conversations deepened, moving from surface-level banter to discussions about life, loss, and resilience. One day, Charlie showed Elon the journal he always carried. "This was Linda's," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "She used to write everything in here, dreams, plans, even letters to me. It's all I have left of her." Elon thumbed through the pages, pausing at a passage where Linda described her dream of starting a logistics company with Charlie. "She believed in you," Elon said. "Why don't you?" Charlie looked away. "Because I failed her." Unbeknownst to Charlie, Linda's journal contained more than just memories. Hidden in its pages were blueprints for a sustainable trucking business she had envisioned. A company that could revolutionize logistics while giving back to the community. Late one night, as Charlie flipped through the journal, he discovered a folded note tucked between the pages. It was addressed to him. "Charlie, if you're reading this, it means I didn't get the chance to tell you. You have everything it takes to make our dream come true. Trust yourself and don't be afraid to ask for help. I believe in you. Always." The note reignited something in Charlie, though he wasn't sure what. Elon presented Charlie with an opportunity. Enter rehab. At first, Charlie resisted. "I've tried before. It never sticks. This time, you'll have support," Elon said firmly. Reluctantly, Charlie agreed. The rehab center was a stark, clinical place, but it became a crucible for his transformation. Detoxing was brutal, and there were days when Charlie wanted to walk away. One particularly hard night, he sat with his counselor, a soft-spoken man named Henry. "What if I'm not strong enough?" Charlie asked. "You don't have to be strong alone," Henry replied. "Strength comes from the people who believe in you, even when you don't believe in yourself." Charlie confided in his counselor. "What if I can't fix myself? What if I'm just too broken?" The counselor replied, "You're not here to fix yourself, Charlie. You're here to rebuild, piece by piece. It's not about perfection. It's about progress." Elon visited him periodically, offering quiet encouragement. During one visit, Elon brought a prototype Tesla semi-truck to the rehab center. "What's this?" Charlie asked, confused. "A glimpse of your future," Elon said with a wink. Charlie befriended a group of fellow residents, each with their own story of struggle and redemption. Maria, a single mother whose addiction had cost her custody of her son. Marcus, a brilliant but arrogant programmer haunted by his failed startup. Jake, a young musician whose career was derailed by heroin. Together, they formed a support system, pushing each other through the darkest moments. The group bonded over their shared struggles, forming a makeshift family. They supported each other through relapses, celebrated milestones, and began envisioning futures that once seemed impossible. One night, Maria confided in Charlie about her dream of becoming a social worker. "If I can help just one person get their life back, it'll be worth it," she said. Her words stayed with Charlie, planting a seed of purpose. When Charlie completed rehab, Elon presented him with a bold proposition to head Phoenix Logistics, a new trucking company aimed at employing those in need of second chances. Charlie hesitated. Why me? I'm just a washed-up trucker. I don't know the first thing about running a business, Charlie protested. Elon replied, You're someone who knows what it's like to be at rock bottom and how to climb back up. That's leadership. You know people, Elon said, and you know the roads. That's enough to start. Phoenix Logistics launched with a handful of Tesla semi-trucks and a mission to employ people in need of second chances. Charlie worked tirelessly, drawing on his own experiences to build a company culture centered on trust and accountability. Phoenix Logistics faced fierce competition from Victor Crane, a cutthroat CEO who had dominated the trucking industry for decades. Victor saw Phoenix as a threat, mocking their mission of giving second chances. Business isn't about charity, Victor sneered during a public interview. It's about results. A trucking company run by addicts and ex-cons? He sneered. It'll crumble within a year. Victor's sabotage tactics included offering Phoenix's clients lower rates to steal contracts, spreading rumors about their reliability, using lobbyists to push for regulations that would harm electric trucking initiatives, spreading rumors about their reliability. You think you're the first bully I've faced? Charlie said in a tense meeting with Victor. You don't scare me. Just as Phoenix began gaining momentum, a trusted employee, Paul, one of their trusted managers, was caught embezzling company funds. Paul, who had been a friend Charlie recruited from rehab, disappeared without a trace, leaving Phoenix on the brink of bankruptcy. The betrayal hit Charlie hard. Charlie was devastated, feeling personally responsible for trusting Paul. But Elon reminded him, leaders take risks on people. Sometimes it pays off, and sometimes it doesn't. That doesn't mean you stop believing. I gave him a chance because I saw myself in him, Charlie admitted to Elon. How could I have been so blind? Elon's response was firm. You can't save everyone. But that doesn't mean you stop trying. Amid the turmoil, Charlie's estranged daughter, Emily, re-entered his life when she saw Phoenix Logistics on the news. Charlie received a letter from his estranged daughter, Emily. Their reunion was strained, filled with years of pent-up resentment. You left me when I needed you most, Emily said, her voice trembling. I know, Charlie admitted, and I've regretted it every day. Charlie looked at Emily, with tears streaming down his face. And I'll spend the rest of my life making it up to you. Despite her anger, Emily couldn't deny her curiosity about her father's transformation. Over time, she joined the company, introducing innovative strategies that propelled Phoenix to new heights. Phoenix Logistics had become a juggernaut, a powerhouse not only within the logistics industry, but as a symbol of resilience, hope, and transformation. What had started as an idea born from the desperation of a broken man, Charlie, had blossomed into something far greater than anyone could have imagined. In the years since that first conversation in the coffee shop, Charlie had completely reinvented not just his life, but the entire structure of his company. By the time Phoenix Logistics reached the 5-year mark, they had more than 1,000 employees, a fleet of over 500 Tesla semi-trucks, and contracts with some of the biggest names in tech, manufacturing, and retail. They were a leading force in the electric logistics space, and their commitment to sustainable, carbon-free transport had made them an industry leader. But it wasn't just the business side that Charlie was most proud of. What made Phoenix truly remarkable was its ethos, the heart and soul that had been built into every truck, every driver, every contract, and every employee. Charlie had long since come to terms with the fact that business was, at its core, a people game. The most successful companies, he believed, weren't necessarily those that offered the lowest prices or the biggest margins. They were those that built relationships and created something bigger than just a profit motive. At Phoenix, they didn't just hire drivers. They hired people who had been given second chances, people who had faced personal demons and emerged stronger for it. Charlie understood that his company wasn't just providing services, it was changing lives. From the beginning, Phoenix Logistics had been founded on the idea of providing jobs for those who had fallen through society's cracks. Former addicts, ex-convicts, veterans with PTSD, and single parents struggling to make ends meet. By offering them a place within the company, Charlie was giving these individuals more than just a paycheck. He was offering them purpose. He had worked with Elon to create a culture of accountability and support. Every driver and every employee knew that they had a support system that cared about their well-being, both in and outside the workplace. But there were moments when it all seemed like it was too much. The pressures of running such a fast-growing company were immense. Charlie found himself torn between the day-to-day demands of running a company and the larger goal of creating real, systemic change within the logistics industry. He worked long hours, often spending sleepless nights at the office or in the truck yard, reviewing contracts, checking on truck maintenance, and, more often than not, talking to his employees to keep the company's pulse steady. One of his proudest accomplishments was the creation of the Phoenix Initiative, an in-house program dedicated to providing career training for those without formal education, or those who had lost their livelihoods through addiction or incarceration. It wasn't just a job placement program. It was a holistic approach to rebuilding lives. The program had grown to support hundreds of employees in various stages of rehabilitation or self-improvement. For many, it was a lifeline, and for Charlie, it became a calling. The company's reputation was beyond reproach. Phoenix had expanded into other countries, offering the same second chance employment model and sustainability practices to global markets. But even with their meteoric rise, not everyone was cheering for their success. Behind the scenes, there were those who resented Phoenix's success and its challenge to the established norms of the logistics industry. And it didn't take long for their competition to take notice. Victor Crane, the CEO of one of the largest and most traditional logistics firms, had been watching Phoenix's rapid rise with growing envy. Crane had built his empire the old-fashioned way, by securing contracts with multinational corporations, offering substantial rebates and pricing advantages that many smaller competitors couldn't match. But what made him most nervous was the ethical business model Phoenix had adopted. Victor had always been a ruthless businessman. His tactics were known to include price manipulation, bribery, and aggressive corporate espionage. But Phoenix's success was built on something he could never replicate: trust. For years, Crane had dismissed Phoenix as a fad, a company that would crumble once the novelty wore off. But as Phoenix expanded, secured government contracts, and developed strategic alliances, he realized that Phoenix had created something more powerful than just a sustainable transport company. They had created a new paradigm for the entire industry, and that scared him. Crane began his attacks quietly at first. He started by offering major discounts to Phoenix's largest clients, hoping to drive them away with price cuts they couldn't match. When that failed, he turned to other tactics. Crane used his influence to spread rumors about Phoenix's reliability, suggesting that their electric trucks were prone to failure and that the drivers were unprofessional. He hired private investigators to dig into Phoenix's operations, searching for any weaknesses he could exploit. It wasn't long before he found a target, an employee in the finance department who had been siphoning funds from Phoenix's accounts and funneling them into a personal account. This discovery, though a blessing in disguise, led to a massive corporate crisis. Crane had planted the seed of doubt within Phoenix's board of directors, whispering about the potential for financial misconduct. The rumors grew, and soon, Phoenix's reputation was on the line. It was a tense time for Charlie. The company's leadership team was under attack, and many of his employees were beginning to question their future. Would Phoenix survive this challenge? Or would the company's hard-won success be stripped away by a concerted, well-funded effort by one of the most powerful men in logistics? Charlie turned to Elon for support, and together they launched an investigation into the embezzlement scheme, working alongside law enforcement to uncover the full extent of the damage. Elon's influence and resources helped Charlie navigate the legal labyrinth of corporate sabotage, and within weeks, they exposed Crane's involvement in orchestrating the smear campaign. The tech companies that had been on the receiving end of Crane's tactics, most notably one of Phoenix's largest clients, publicly denounced Crane's actions, reaffirming their commitment to Phoenix and condemning his underhanded tactics. The media frenzy that followed exposed Crane's illegal dealings, and soon, government regulators were investigating his company for corruption and fraudulent activities. Victor Crane, once the king of the logistics industry, was left with a shattered empire. His stock prices plummeted, and his major investors pulled out. For Charlie, the victory was bittersweet. While it felt good to expose Crane for the crook he was, it was a reminder of how far he'd come. When Phoenix had first started, it was a small company fighting for survival. Now, it was a leader fighting not just for its survival, but for the future of an entire industry. As Phoenix Logistics moved forward, Charlie focused on what he had learned from the experience, that the road to success was never smooth, and that one's integrity and mission had to remain the core of everything. The company continued to grow, but Charlie never lost sight of the values that had gotten them here. He reminded himself daily that while the business side of things was important, it was the lives that Phoenix changed that mattered most. Years passed, but in many ways, Charlie and Elon's friendship had remained unchanged. It was a bond that had been forged in the fire of adversity and strengthened by their shared vision. Their connection wasn't just about business. It was about life, struggle, and the unshakable belief that people could change, that second chances were real, and that together they could make the world a better place. Phoenix Logistics had long since become a household name, and Charlie had become a public figure in his own right. He had written books on leadership and second chances, spoken at conferences about the power of purpose-driven business, and even started an initiative to fund and mentor other companies that wanted to adopt the same ethical model. He had become a sought-after speaker and an advocate for social change. But despite his growing fame, Charlie never lost touch with the man he once was. The man who had been down and out and had been saved by the kindness of one person. Elon, too, had changed over the years, though his name was now synonymous with innovation and progress. Elon had become more reflective, more patient with the world. His focus had shifted from the seemingly endless pursuit of technological breakthroughs to considering the impact his companies had on society. He had poured resources into education, healthcare, and mental health programs, always looking for ways to give back to the world that had helped shape him. Their reunion, years after that first meeting in the coffee shop, felt like a moment suspended in time. Charlie had returned to Los Angeles, the city where it all began, to speak at a conference. When he found himself standing at the same coffee shop where he had met Elon all those years ago, it felt like destiny. Charlie entered, his eyes scanning the familiar surroundings, as if the past had come rushing back to him. He had changed so much since that day, but he still remembered the confusion in his chest when he had first sat down with Elon, not knowing who he was. But now, after all they had been through together, he realized it didn't matter who Elon Musk was. It was the belief he had shown in Charlie that had made all the difference. And now, years later, as Charlie entered the cafe once again, he was no longer the man who had been lost on the streets of Los Angeles. He was a leader, a father, a mentor. When he saw Elon sitting at the table, as calm and unassuming as ever, Charlie smiled. There was no need for fanfare, no need for grand gestures. This was a moment between two men who had changed the world, and more importantly, had changed each other. "Did you ever think we'd end up here?" Charlie asked, smiling, as he sat down across from Elon. Elon looked at him for a long moment, his face softening. There were no words for this moment, no perfect response, just a nod. "I did," he said quietly, "because I believed in you. From the moment I sat down at that table, I could see what you were capable of. You just needed a little push." Charlie's heart swelled. It was the simplest truth, the most powerful truth. "And you gave me that push," Charlie said. "I wouldn't have made it without you." They sat there for a while, talking quietly about the past, about their families, about their next ventures. There were no grand revelations in that conversation. Just two friends who had seen each other through the darkest of times, and now, in the light of their success, could finally reflect on the journey they had taken together. The rain began to fall again, softly at first, then harder, as if the world itself was cleansing away the past, making way for the future. Charlie and Elon stood up, ready to leave the coffee shop, the memories of their journey locked in their hearts. As they stepped outside, the air was fresh, the streets glistening from the rain. The world seemed to stretch out before them, filled with possibilities. The future was wide open. For the first time in a long while, Charlie felt truly at peace, knowing that whatever came next, he was ready. And as long as he had people like Elon by his side, he knew there was no limit to what they could achieve.